Remember the big Florida elections in 2018? They coincided with the blue wave midterm elections nationwide that gave Democrats back the House. But Republican Ron DeSantis won a narrow victory against his Democratic opponent for governor, Andrew Gillum. It was so close, in fact, that it led to what else? One of Florida's contentious machine recounts. Gillum ultimately conceded. But this year, with November's gubernatorial elections around the corner, DeSantis is practically on cruise control. He's polling significantly higher than his Democratic opponents, is fundraising more, and is expected to slide into another election victory. He's likely on course to be running for president in 2024, too, and in the absence of Trump, is the automatic Republican frontrunner. All this despite the fact that he, just to name a few things, oversaw the deaths of tens of thousands of people in his state across the pandemic and got into a ridiculous fight with Disney, one of Florida's largest employers, revoking its special tax status, and even went after faculty at state universities, making it harder for them to retain tenure, saying, quote, "It's all about trying to make these institutions more in line with what the state's priorities are." And there's no question about what those priorities are. In just 4 years, DeSantis has managed to turn what was once America's biggest, most crucial swing state into what David Graham of The Atlantic now calls the vanguard of MAGA policymaking. So what happened in Florida? And when it comes to elections in the Sunshine State, do Democrats still even have a chance? Joining me now to discuss this is someone who thinks so, Nikki Fried, the only statewide elected Democrat in Florida, currently serving as the state's agriculture commissioner. She's also a Democratic candidate for governor. The primaries there are on August the 23rd. Thank you for coming back on the show. You and two other Democrats, Congressman Charlie Crist and State Senator Annette Taddeo, are competing to run against Ron DeSantis in November. But DeSantis is leading all of you in the polls by a significant margin. Has Florida become just a red state?
Absolutely not. You know, you're just talking about the recount of 2018. I also had my own recount in 2018. I was part of that, and so was able to flip a seat that has typically been controlled by Republicans. In fact, my predecessor won the seat by over almost 1 million votes. We flipped it by 20 points. And that was just 3.5 years ago. So we know that the state is by far not red. Unfortunately, though, the national narrative is that it is red. But those of us that are living here in the state, that are talking to voters on the ground, they are frustrated. They're angry. And after this week, they know what is on the line, and they want to get rid of Ron DeSantis.
Whether or not DeSantis beats the Democratic candidate in November, and the polls suggest he will, but you're right, things might change, that candidate might not be you. Charlie Crist, according to other polls, is currently leading in the race for the Democratic gubernatorial nomination, and he himself is a former Republican governor of your state. That's who you're losing to right now in the Democratic primaries, according to the polls.
Well, first of all, I think that we all have seen that polls don't tend to be correct, especially with what is going on here in the state and here across the country. Look, Democrats want to win. They want somebody who is a true Democrat since I was 17 years old, who has been a fierce fighter. I have been the only one who's been able to win my state since Barack Obama took my state back when he was president. And so we know that on the ground, everybody that we are talking to, they want something new. They want somebody who has a proven track record and somebody who's been standing up for a woman's right to choose her entire life. Charlie has been back and forth on this issue. This is not the time to put somebody like him in anywhere close to that governor's mansion.
So speaking of your own candidacy, you recently filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration over a federal rule that bars medical marijuana users from purchasing guns. It's kind of rare to see Democrats suing other Democrats, a sitting president. You also posted a selfie going maskless on planes after the TSA mandate was lifted. That was before the Biden DOJ appealed that ruling. I mean, is this the way Democrats have to campaign in conservative Florida now, leaning into gun rights and away from masks?
Well, first and foremost, I came into this position as a cannabis advocate. And so we have seen that now for decades, that more Black and brown men across our entire country are still going to jail and to prison for marijuana possession. And we haven't seen the needle move in Washington, D.C. This was an opportunity under my official role. We're seeing concealed weapons permitting and other gun licensing to kind of push the envelope and say, look, we need to make these changes. And so the issue is the fact that marijuana users are precluded from purchasing a firearm. And this is something something that needs to be fixed and needs to be changed. And it actually creates more safety here in the state of Florida and across the country because it's forcing people to actually get a background check per the ATF form. But look, our state is purple. And so in order for a Democrat to win here, we need to be able to have a conversation and be able to talk about issues that transcend partisan politics. That's what I wanted in 2018. And we have to understand where the people are here in our state. And that's where they are, isn't it?
One issue that doesn't transcend partisan politics has been in the news all week. If elected, you would be Florida's first woman governor. As a woman candidate, how much do you think this week's leaked draft of a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade, how much is that going to affect the primaries and maybe even November's general election? Is choice going to be the issue that galvanizes this election, this electorate, especially for Democrats, especially when your Democratic opponent used to be a Republican governor with a, shall we say, mixed record on abortion rights?
Yes, this was a monumental shift in what people are talking about on the ground, because we all know that based on the opinion that is, again, not official yet, but on the opinion, it is the fact that it opens the doors for all of our rights that are not specifically spelled out in the Constitution. And this is a big one. And so we know that right now people need a fighter, somebody who's going to be a champion. And since we cannot rely on federal security and federal protections, that we're going to have to rely on our state government, which means that it is even more important that we are electing pro-choice, freedom of choice Democrats into those governor's offices and legislators all across our states. So this is going to be a game changer for not just the state of Florida, but for elections all across our country.
How worried are you that DeSantis he's just signed into law a new bill that's going to take an effect, I believe, in July on the 16-week abortion limit? How worried are you that he, post any decision coming down the track from the Supreme Court, he goes for a Texas-style 6-week limit?
Yeah, I think that is a real possibility here in the state of Florida. He had a 15-week ban that did not have an exemption for rape, incest, victims of sex trafficking. And so unfortunately, he knows where his base is, or he believes he knows where his base is. And I won't put it past him that he won't call the legislature back into a special session to move forward to an almost all-out ban here in the state of Florida. And we are seeing polling that only 23% of Floridians want that, which means he is no longer and has no longer been talking for the majority of our state, which is why you are going to see people in droves going to register to vote, make sure that they're going to the ballot boxes, and you're going to see a lot of crossover, especially Republican women who are seeing that this has gone way too far.